Hello there. Before we get into tariffs, let me ask you something simple. Have you noticed how prices keep rising? Products arrive later than they used to, and shortages appear out of nowhere? It often feels random, like the global economy is just malfunctioning. But in many cases, there's a specific trigger hiding in plain sight. And once you see it, you'll realize how a single policy decision can quietly disrupt the entire world. Tariffs sound straightforward. A government places a tax on imported goods, usually to protect domestic industries or pressure foreign competitors. On the surface, it feels logical. Make imports more expensive, encourage local production, and strengthen your economy. That's the story most people hear. But the reality underneath is far more complex and far more destructive than it appears. Here's the first thing most people don't realize. Tariffs are not paid by foreign countries. They're paid by companies that import goods. And companies don't absorb costs out of generosity. They pass them on, sometimes to other businesses, sometimes to consumers, often to both. The moment a tariff is introduced, costs begin moving through the system like electricity through wires. Modern supply chains are not simple lines from factory to store. They're global networks. A single product might rely on raw materials from one country, components from several others, assembly in another region, and distribution across dozens of markets. When a tariff hits just one part of that chain, the entire network feels it. Nothing stays contained. Take a basic input like steel. When steel imports face tariffs, steel becomes more expensive. That immediately affects car manufacturers, appliance makers, construction firms, machinery producers, and infrastructure projects. Those companies then face a choice: raise prices, cut costs, or reduce output. No option is painless. Every choice creates another ripple. When prices rise, consumers react. Some delay purchases, others buy cheaper alternatives. Demand shifts. That shift travels back up the supply chain, forcing companies to revise forecasts, cancel orders, and renegotiate contracts. A single tariff quietly rewrites production plans across industries that had nothing to do with the original policy. This is where the domino effect accelerates. Supply chains rely on predictability. Companies sign long-term agreements based on stable rules. When tariffs appear suddenly or change frequently, that stability disappears. Trust erodes. Investment slows. Expansion plans are paused. Businesses start redesigning supply chains not for efficiency, but for survival. Many people assume companies can simply bring production home. In reality, that's one of the biggest myths in economic policy. Building factories takes years. Training skilled workers takes longer. Infrastructure, regulation, and capital constraints don't disappear because a tariff was announced. In the short and medium term, companies must operate within the system they already have, even as it becomes more expensive and fragile. As firms search for alternatives, they often turn to new suppliers in unfamiliar regions. These substitutes come with different quality standards, regulatory hurdles, and logistical challenges. Production slows. Defects increase. Delays become common. Costs rise again, this time not from taxes, but from friction and inefficiency. International relationships also take damage. Tariffs rarely stay one-sided. Other countries respond with tariffs of their own. What begins as a targeted policy quickly becomes a trade confrontation. Industries unrelated to the original dispute get pulled in as leverage. Agriculture, consumer goods, and technology often become bargaining chips in political negotiations. For workers, the impact is gradual and invisible. Factories don't shut down overnight. Instead, overtime disappears. Hiring freezes begin. Shifts are reduced. Eventually, layoffs follow. By the time the connection is obvious, the decision that triggered it may be years old and long forgotten by the public. Consumers feel it differently. Prices creep up. Products shrink. Choices narrow. Delivery times stretch. People are told inflation is the cause, or global instability, or supply issues. Those explanations aren't wrong, but tariffs often sit beneath them, amplifying every weakness in the system. Even when tariffs are later removed, supply chains rarely return to their original form. Too much trust has been lost. Too much capital has been redirected. New routes have formed. New partners have replaced old ones. The system adapts, but the adaptation carries permanent costs. This is what makes tariffs so disruptive. Their effects compound. Higher costs reduce demand. Reduced demand weakens investment. Lower investment slows innovation. Slower innovation reduces competitiveness. What started as a narrow policy choice becomes a structural shift that reshapes entire economies. Tariffs are blunt instruments in a world built on precision. They can satisfy political goals in the short term, but they lack control. They don't target behavior cleanly. They distort incentives everywhere. In a global economy designed for specialization and efficiency, that distortion creates fragility. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In a connected world, no trade policy is isolated. Every tariff sends a signal. Every signal triggers reactions. Those reactions spread across borders, industries, and lives. And by the time the full consequences are visible, attention has already moved on. So here's the question I want you thinking about. If a single tariff can reshape global supply chains, influence prices, alter jobs, and change international relationships, how carefully do you think these policies are really being used? If this helped you see tariffs differently, drop a comment and share what surprised you most. If you think tariffs protect economies, explain why. If you think they do more harm than good, say so. I read the comments, and that's where the real conversation happens. And if you want more breakdowns like this, clear, honest explanations of how global decisions affect your everyday life, like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe. Because the economy doesn't change in headlines. It changes quietly, and understanding it is your real advantage.